large elements of the way here.
The rivers have flowed out into the bay, taking the river sugar out there, and that's been pushed up onto the beaches by the ocean currents. The Norfolk pines that line the street were planted in 1891.
You do come into town at some point today. Next to the football park I found it there is the pioneer of the reef statue up at that's at the head of our main street. The main street's only 400 yards long. I'll sit down there to our right. So if you come up the main street, across the pedestrian crossing and just driving over.
New Zealand's foundations are about 50 million years. Compare that to North America, they've been settled for about 14,000 years. After the earthquake, fires started throughout town and with broken water mains.
Coming up on our left at the moment is the Masonic Hotel. This is where the Queen of England stayed on her coronation tour of the world. Mark Twain called in for a bit of a strike. But if you look at the second story balconies there, the guests were able to skip stones on the ocean prior to the earthquake.
3.7 metres, 2.5 minutes.
The architectural fashion chosen for the rebuilding was known as Art Deco. There were actually a few reasons for that. One being that it was fashionable at the time. Secondly, that it was relatively safe. The big factor, of course, was that it was cheap, and this was particularly important during the Depression. Please pay special attention to the tops of the buildings and the entrances as we drive along. You'll see a lot of sunbursts, which symbolise the dawn of the new age, geometric shapes that represent new technology. Please remember to wave, and remember also that if you're from out of town, nobody knows you're here, so you can do anything you like. After the earthquake, Napier was presented with a unique opportunity. The wholesale replacement of its city centre. The city authorities did not want haphazard development, and so the council was placed in recess, and just 2 people were appointed to oversee all aspects of the redevelopment. This removed the need for large consultations and reviews, so the redevelopment happened very quickly. The streets were widened, the corners on the buildings were pushed back from the street corners, and New Zealand's first underground power supply was installed. A temporary shopping centre was built in Clive Square. It was called Tin Town, given that it was largely constructed of old sheets of rock. When they were doing the rebuilding, they used rivets in construction, even though welding technology was widely available. This was because of the loud noise they made when being applied. People could hear the rebuilding was underway. I guess it was a bit of a morale booster. Of course, it does beg the question, 2 people can coordinate the entire rebuild of the city in 2.5 years. Why do we need 14 councillors on a daily basis? If you look up around the verandas there, you'll see that most of them are tied back into the building. This is because during the earthquake, many of those poles, the verandas were on collapsed, dropping the veranda on the people coming out of the shops or those in the street. So by tying them back in, 1, they make a cleaner street, but 2, they're much more earthquake friendly. As we turn the corner, you will see a large pink building on your right. This is a very good example of Art Deco, and since it was opened, it has been a bang, a restaurant. On one of our very first trips through town here with customers, one lady stood up and yelled out that her mum used to work there. Just as I was also explaining, it used to house the world's oldest profession for many years as well. You'll see there's a large number of pink buildings here in town. Pink was very popular in the 1930s. It took me about 70 years longer to get used to the idea of wearing it. If you have a look down at the street on our left, you'll see that there's a wonderful Spanish mission building nestled in there. And on the corner here, that's the old movie theatre of 1932. The earthquake had no trouble destroying the bricks and mortar and concrete buildings here because there was nothing tying them together. The wooden ones survived the earthquake surprisingly well, both here and up on the hill. It was only the resulting fires here in the town centre that destroyed them. The square coming with the large trees. This is where they had the temporary town for 2.5 years. This gave the construction workers the freedom to clear the rest of the buildings and put all the rubble up on the foreshore without worrying about people being in and around running their daily lives.
Just on our right here is the Trinity Methodist Church, a wooden building, survived the earthquake like closed. And as the fires were fanned by a sea breeze during the time of the earthquake, they got all the way down to that building and were about to engulf it, but the wind changed direction. And on top of the square here, we've got the old fire station. Prior to the earthquake, this building was a beautiful Victorian-style building. Unfortunately, earthquakes like Victorian-style buildings. It just gives them ammunition, really, all the sculptures and statues. And it threw it down onto the engines, damaging them and blocking the entranceway. So hence the need for a much more earthquake-friendly style in the rebuild. Often spending quite considerable money preserving their buildings. But of all the functions they have, my favourite is the one they have here in Clive Square, cutting off the corners and improved visibility, of course. And they were right, traffic has got faster pretty much everywhere in the world, except maybe Auckland and London, where rush hour traffic is about the same speed as the horse and cart, I believe. But here in little old Napier, rush hour traffic only lasts 3.5 minutes. People get home to their families from their desk within 10 minutes.
And agriculture. To remain competitive, we've had to adapt and change. Most businesses in Hawke's Bay are small and target niche markets. Therefore, a large proportion of the work is manual, specialised, and cannot be automated. The climate here in Hawke's Bay is fantastic, with 2,200 hours of sunshine, rainfall spread throughout the year. We've got young, rich soil, so things grow exceptionally well. We have mild winters as well, so the ground temperatures stay high, so everything grows all year round, except those that are deciduous. A good example is the radiata pine tree. Grown to harvestable size in just 22 to 24 years here. The same tree in Europe will take 55 to 60 years to grow to the same size. Because of this, people have brought plants from all over the world to New Zealand. Sometimes they grow better here than they do in the environment by these plants that have been introduced. And that's on top of course, all the introduced animals that are eating native bush. For example, the opossum is believed to eat over 50 tonne of foliage per night. That's 50 tonne. Of course, with such an array of plants from around the world, people have travelled here often to come and see just the gardens we have around here growing. Hawke's Bay is home to over 150 vineyards. It is New Zealand's oldest wine-growing region, dating back to the 1860s. Other major crops for export market include kiwi fruit, stone fruit. Historically, there were 20 sheep per person in New Zealand. I'm sure it was a difficult decision as they had to keep paying the original
Industries here are really adding strength for our economy. Adding diversity away from the weather-dependent elements of horticulture and agriculture. Even most all the trains being bought by a property developer.
Rothman's building was built in 1932. One of the reasons it is so ornate is that the manager at the time, on seeing the first architectural drawings, sent it back saying it was not ornate enough. Apparently, even in the Depression, people were still buying this.
red.